Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just want to make sure I'm set up real quick, correct? Make sure there's no echo, speaker is fine, microphone, echo can't seem to say.
Yeah.
Testing. We're Randy. Yes. I'm Troy Deal. I'm the leader of Matt. Yeah. We're working on doing some scheduling for next January. You got sent your commission schedules in yet, or your team? I didn't see it on the online, man. Yeah, we're just trying to, we want to make sure we schedule around it. Okay. And then be helpful if I had it. Yeah, let me get it. Christie, our admin's out today, but I think I can get it for you. And nobody didn't have time to have today. If you want to, yeah, I understand. That's my MO too. Do it first before it leaves the brain matter. Yeah. Okay. It's either have to do it instantly or write it down. There's no in between. Okay. Yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
How are you? Excuse me, Secretary Rice.
How's it going, man?
You still got about
That's right.
How are you? This is my old boss.
Oh,
That's what I call him there. Sorry.
no, you're not. But you left him?
He left me.
Oh. She just wasn't following me, that's what it was.
Sorry. Sorry.
How's everything going? Good,
She
yeah.
got the homes.
Yeah, I know. Well, I heard, she left a few weeks ago.
She left me too?
Yeah, I know. I talked to
You
her.
have to comment. But it's busy.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, Diane retired.
Oh, yeah. When she retired.
The same week the time we left.
There you go, yeah, it's time.
We-
Same thing.
Diane left on Wednesday. Don was last day, living wasn't until, November 11th.
Yeah.
She had time, she had to take.
Shit, bird, yeah.
So when she actually had to physically left the office, it was Wednesday and Friday.
Oh, all right.
So, yes. But how's your babies?
They're doing great.
Good. I see pictures and I love it.
Resellis just turned 3 this past Sunday,
Oh,
so we had his birthday party. He had a blast. And he just now get used to presents and candy and things like that. So, you really, I don't know, just gifts and he got a bunch of trucks, you know, and cars, so he had.
She wrote the bottom.
Ari loved it. She goes all hard.
I never thought she would not look beautiful or like Allie, but she did.
We're switching.
But everyone.
So glad.
And Lori, she's cooking around, she's getting my mom, she's throwing around. It was pretty good. We'll see.
She's that's the only time it's cute.
Yeah, well, she got the same weight as Breeze Reds. They're wearing the same size diapers, actually.
Oh, she can't help that.
But she's cute.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, pretty cute. Oh, yeah, they're loving it.
Are y'all gonna have more?
Well, that's not my plan. Breathe a lot, you know. We'll get to a point where we'll forget how much it is to have, their parents.
Yeah.
You know, because babies take up a lot of time.
Well, and trying to get ready, you got some, you got 3 other little bodies.
Oh, yeah, they're
Get
all.
ready.
It's like a corral and a circus.
Oh,
Resells usually wakes up angry. Ari's real pleasant, she can do all the stuff herself, but, the other two, they just, Rory didn't like us to change diapers, she buys us, resell us, he didn't like to get dressed, so. And they all want something different to eat,
Oh, my.
so, it's just, it's fun, they keep me on my toes.
Oh, yeah. Can I get you some water there? You can. Can you just water? I'll be happy to. Thank you very much. You're welcome. You want some water? Yes. Thank you very much. You're very welcome. Have to stay hydrated. I know, it's important. Even in the cold. You're welcome. You're welcome. Is Rhoda here?
Yes,
And
she's fine, good.
Okay, is she on vacation this week?
No, she said.
I'm trying to call her several times and missed her. That's why I emailed me directly.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't know what. She remote works today and Monday,
Okay.
so I don't know if. maybe she-
I don't know.
I'll see if I get that.
Okay. It's not a big deal because I could email you, but, I didn't want to bother you.
No.
I was coming out of Walmart, I'll make water. But shitty.
So, we, like basketball.
Yes, sir.
And, the gym that we were in, I don't know if they just, it seemed like the AC was still on, so it was ice. It took me about half the time playing there for.
That warmed up.
Got warmed up, and of course, that was good, but, no, it was, yeah, I think it was cold for that, yeah, it was,
Yeah. The other time, okay, because I read it now before.
Exactly. So I guess it was fine, I guess, better than having too much heat on there, but.
Who played with them?
So this,
Caleb playing.
Caleb has not played years, I haven't seen him out there 3 years. But,
He didn't play with us.
nah, he only showed up every once in a while, I think, but. Now, I mean, the regulars are teams, like Russ. Brett Hatcher usually shows up. Trying to Caleb stand.
Caleb, yes. I would see Caleb sometime at my nutrition spot, because he would come by and shake him. TM's way home.
And so he still shows up a lot.
You don't like that, so what this,
Well, we,
you did like it.
yeah, we usually do either Episcopal or Hall High, or you, but you, but Hall probably most. Episcopal. And then, Kelly showed up. And after that, it's just kind of a mixed bag, that JR showed up.
Oh, yeah.
JR hadn't played in long as Caleb, about 5 years. So he played last week when they went up to Northwest Arkansas and played. And then played this week, so they did
Good.
both the regulars.
No.
4 or 5. You have big holiday plans?
I've been, my dad, I would say, two nights on the sea versus. So it's gonna be quite long to go.
Probably especially for two, right?
Well, you know, when I think about it, I think, I don't know, how long, maybe more years. I don't think he wants to go either.
Yeah, sure.
She, her sister, that was really sweet. So,
Oh, yeah.
I should.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
I'm going to their house on Tuesday. In Berlin. Hey, lady. Hi, how are you? Good. Good to see you. Y'all have a good one. We're young that day.
Brother. And so we're gonna have it at our house. Mistake us in, where do you want it? And, they just bought their house in February, so I thought they wanted it at their house, but they didn't. We'll have all left.
There you go. You're not left out.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, start. Usually they have next. Yeah, archery. I was up on Appalachian Trail. Backpacking with compound bow. Yeah. It's I can hop on the trail, 20 minutes from my house. It's not really been out and back about 8 miles. It's all, yeah. But I think they're all at now. Yeah, I would say probably Thanksgiving. I come get 3 days, then I'm going back there tomorrow. Okay. You all ready for Thanksgiving? Ready for hospital? How about you? Yeah, I think so. I'm with my brother's family. Off the various houses, so yeah. Good, we're staying here on my fence.
I'm more.
It is one. You really seem, I had a friend that, friend of ours, this little boy like the one. We are, yeah, we have a brief update on. Okay, this is chaos. Which means. One more. Yeah, they will be.
Love it. 17 years. The Joey, oh, yeah, it's a little dry. Yeah, it took a lot. I started. Yeah. What's that? It's kind of hard to argue. Right, that's exactly right. I mean, so really right now, so, yeah, you know, like, I know we're back off. Yeah, taxes, there's a bigger state. Yeah, how do we be more competitive? Yeah. Challenge. Okay. Oh, you meant see. Yes. So that's what TSS. Yeah. And secretary there. Yeah. So we're in okay. We have yeah. Just high energy, thoughtful, wishing approach to things with this, but it gets things done. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they separated. It's busy. It is busy. You wait for it to slow down.
It's gonna be like this, you know, big holidays.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Okay.
It's kids.
Well, and this one's secret. We're not having that. We have our chat. People want to say it's
See what's out there. Anybody else? I'm representing for one meeting. Yeah. Yeah.
One last. One out.
Yeah.
I used to. And then there you go. I know.
How are you doing? That little bit low, I was a little bit of air. I don't know.
Oh, be careful. Where you Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Great conditions have been outstanding. If we haven't had a strong climate.
Jim Parkins not, said he was coming, he's not here yet. Jonathan Askins is not here yet, he said he was coming, and so Alan's not here. You wanna wait a minute? We've sent a correction, he's coming out. Larry is on it. Larry's on it. No, we're not recording. Your mics are live.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Recording in progress.
Well, thank you for those of you in the audience. Thank you, committee members, for joining us. We have a few folks that will be transitioning into the room as we begin, but for the sake of those of you that are here and timely, I want to make sure we begin the agenda promptly. I know Randy Ort has to step out around 3, so when he leaves, it's not in objection to something someone said. It's in reflection of his commitments this afternoon. So I'll just bring that up, but so wanted to make sure that you're aware of that. Others will be joining us by Zoom, and I believe we have Director or Administrator Bingle on Zoom right now. I can't see, so I don't know who else has joined us yet, but that's it right now. I think we have others that indicated that they could not be here physically in person, but would be joining us in Zoom. So, but with that, I'll call this November meeting to order, and we'll make sure that, I don't know that we have any voting actions today, but I do believe we have a quorum if that was necessary. So, or I'll deem a quorum present. But we'll make sure that if we had an approval, I guess the first action is an approval of the August minutes. Do I have a motion to accept those minutes, or would anyone?
Motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from, I don't know who's keeping notes. I have a motion to accept the minutes and a second. So with that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. And I know we have, like I mentioned, several folks that were going to be participating today by Zoom. So hopefully we'll get those also in attendance, and if they have feedback. I believe, Troy, you have a presentation you can pull up for me. Just wanted to reflect a few moments before we get into some of the updates. But thanks to some support from Deloitte, Heidi Green helped put this presentation together as we look at the first anniversary of the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act as it was implemented this week represents the first anniversary of the passage of that legislation. Obviously, since that, we've had the Inflation Reduction Act passed, all those, and then other federal legislations that are moving are directly focused on investing in infrastructure modernization and across our country. And so we want to reflect on the fact in this presentation of what it means to Arkansas, because we know this is a huge amount of funds, federal funds and federal investment that is supported by Arkansas tax dollars. And we want to make sure that we're carrying that accountability and responsibility forward. When I speak to our senators and our congressional delegation, they also, indicate that they're very thankful this committee exists, that we're having good conversations and about what to do with funding and how to responsibly request the funding, and also responsibly deliver it across our state. So thank you for the work you're doing on that. So, but we're going to go through this. It's a bit lengthy. I'm not going to go through the whole presentation. This was partially put together for purposes of presenting to the governor and the governor-elect. And so I just wanted y'all to look at it as kind of a quick review. You can provide me feedback. This is not necessarily a final document, but and those of you in the audience, and we can share this if you'd like. But basically, the first slides that I guess we're on now is the formation of the Planning and Advisory Committee, as you know, under executive order. And the governor was actually the first in the country, I believe, to name what is considered an infrastructure coordinator now through this committee. So y'all serve not only as the first in the country, but also now 54, I guess, states and territories have all put these either committees in place or advisors or both. So with that, and I forgot to welcome some visitors. I want to, since we are talking about the governor's executive board, I wanted to recognize Savannah Skidmore, who's here from the governor's office. She's a liaison over there, and So we're happy to have you here at the discussion today. But that just reflects the membership as it existed. We've tried to update it with who's on it now. I guess there's some delegations that are going on at meetings, but as I believe Jamie Cook's name needs to be changed on that. So apologize, you will make that correction for yours. But that was the original membership and will reflect the current membership if we have not captured the changes. And then it just lines out the specific responsibilities as we've done it. So Troy, you want to move on and we'll just come back to that. And I'll share this after the meeting by PowerPoint if you'd like to look at it or use it for reference in any conversations you're having. This just shows the funding allocation. And again, it's hard to see at this level. And I think you present, you may have a copy. Do you have a copy in front of you? Okay. Then you can see that this was just the funding as we understood it coming to Arkansas. And then the national funding estimates. So, and I'll explain kind of where we are today based on how much of these $1 billion have actually really, or $1 trillion have actually been realized at the state level, which it's still being the first year, it wouldn't be expected to be all of it. So if we go to page 5, I think the next slide shows Arkansas is anticipated to receive $4.96 billion in funding from the first piece of legislation, the IIJA. The IRA, or Inflation Reduction Act, adds incentives and other funding assistance, probably more directly to the community or citizens, but so it pluses up this funding in advancing some of these strategies. But this was based on somewhat of an infrastructure report that was put together that supported this funding. So I guess overall we received a grade C, which I always got in trouble if I made a C in school, but on the report card that was put together at one point, but we are looking at needs for improvement. They said that was a common grade. Most states received that level of grading. So we weren't necessarily stood out as deficient, but that there's obviously room for improvement. And so looking at some of the ways we can improve our bridges, our roads, our transit, broadband, and water infrastructure, as well as many of our energy resources or resiliency. So with that, the next slide goes into just some of the current and expected allocations. This is just very detailed stuff, but again, I want to just show you what was put together. And then some of the allocations, I'm going to move on through Troy to on number 7, where it shows the current allocation highlights. I think that's the next one. There you go. Particularly some of the bridge funding, the highway department, I know has received additional formula funds, and others, water, or we were just speaking before the meeting started, some of the Director Coke closure about the drinking water and revolving loan funds and the process they're going through. And of course, airports were one of the early places that received direct funding through their airport infrastructure grants. So that is reflected in some of the funding that has come in the state already to improve some of the airport infrastructure across the state. We had other opportunities with the affordable connectivity benefits to Arkansans, $16 billion in national funding for other major projects, $3.5 billion nationwide in weatherization, and Arkansas will receive a fairly significant increase in weatherization funds than over what we historically have received. And we'll have the opportunity to compete for $2.5 billion in grant funding for additional EV charging in addition to the NEVI funds that have already been committed to Arkansas. So if we go to the next slide, I think it talks about some of the new and expanded programs, electric vehicles, workforce development, cybersecurity, resiliency, water, hydrogen, which we've spoken before about, broadband, are among them, and then it continues. So I'm not going to read all these. I'd like you to kind of look at this later and see if there's anything, because there's just a lot in it. So I'm going to jump on through. I know if we look at page 10, it starts reflecting what's actually gone on in Arkansas and some of the dates that we saw some of the funding begin to be distributed in Arkansas, starting in July with the first, the NEVI plan being submitted by DOT in concert with our energy and environment departments. And that plan's been approved, and so that spending is now, as I understand it, awaiting final guidance and rulemaking at the DOT level to hopefully to be deployed early next year. There's also broadband awards, and I believe we've received some of those funds. And I don't have that person sitting here, so I don't want to say the wrong thing. I'll leave that for reporting. In transportation, I know Arkansas DOT has received some additional funds and have done some sub-grants now out, and we can talk about that later. But and then, as I mentioned, there's some other energy office grants that have come through, workforce development funding, and I believe cyber is submitting, if they haven't submitted already, their application for the cybersecurity program this month. So a lot going on at the state level. Appreciate the resources and the investments that you're making across your teams to be timely in these submittals. There's some grants coming up soon, and we're looking at that. On page 12, I moved kind of quickly through this. Upcoming grants and funding opportunities include additional investments in transportation, cyber, water, power, energy resilience, and climate and brownfield projects, specifically on the environmental side. So a lot. I know there was a clean school bus awards announced, which included 4 locations in Arkansas that will receive direct funding from EPA at the district level to purchase some electric buses, in addition to funding that the state has made available through our E&E department, our Volkswagen settlement funds. We also are awarding grants for both level 2 chargers, but also some fast charging and 3 pilot locations, as well as doing some work on our additional funds to electrify additional bus systems in other communities in Arkansas, in addition to those announced by EPA. And I'm not sure that announcements go out, so I'll hold on that announcement until it's been released. But it's very good news for those school districts that will receive that funding. So with that, I think we get to the next slide, which goes to how have we coordinated this. And I guess you could argue it's been a work in progress for many of us. But I think from a standpoint, I hope the committee has helped you and provided you some resources. One of the resources that the governor mentioned in the executive order was potentially tapping into a consultant to allow us to build capacity, implement programs, and to better understand, I guess, what's available at the federal level, but also the requirements that are built into the act, making sure that we stay in compliance so that we don't have any callback of funds once these funds are deployed. So with that, we went through a procurement process. With a number of you on the committee, we interviewed 4 national level consultants to come in. We went through, and thanks to TSS and Secretary Rouse and your team, we went through the proper legal steps, and at the end of that process, Deloitte was selected to be our lead contractor for making them available to the committee and its membership to help move those projects along and help stand up this committee. And in doing so, they have now have a lot of experience. This goes through some of why they were selected, the process that we went through, but also some of the work. And I think if you'll flip on over to page 17, it talks a little bit about the status of their work for the committee and for the entities across the state. I think they've had meetings now with 30 plus meetings with 11 of our state entities, done statement of works. We have 3 active statement of works. There's a strategic planning, stakeholder engagement, and public facing dashboard SOW that will be discussed here briefly in this meeting. That is pending final review in December, but has been negotiated for that purpose of that. So it's not technically active till we get that pending legislative review completed. Statement of work number 2 is our weatherization assistance program. I know because of the significant investment and amount of increase in weatherization funds, Deloitte was asked to come help put that program in place to make sure we use that money to its maximum potential. And then an electric vehicle planning grant that they're working on that's helping us prepare for that $2.5 billion competitive round for additional EV money, which, as we call it, kind of beyond NEVI, looking at more rural placement, advance some of the rural EV charging faster in the state if successful, and that there's a lot of work there to be done to prepare for those applications. The two pending ones is an E&E statement of work where Deloitte will provide support on the orphan well program for compliance with Davis-Bacon Act. This is a new requirement for our orphan well plugging processes that we've been using at the state level. So this is important that we identify how and track the consultant's performance in respect to Davis-Bacon. They will assist with that. And then I believe they understand they're working also with Game and Fish on a prioritization funding map as well. And I'm not sure of your status. So a lot of other things, but those are just some examples of how you might use Deloitte if you're not tapping into them. And I think we're all finding ways that it always helps. I know I understand from the reports this week that the federal government has invested in significant additional employees to implement these, maybe to the tune of, I heard in a call yesterday, 3,500 new federal employees on the rolls for this act. I know at the state, we're using our existing resources and trying to deliver at a pace that's pretty unprecedented in terms of the amount of funds. So I know we don't have access to those additional resources, but I believe this is where we can use Deloitte and others to help make sure we get that done. And then I think most importantly, being transparent as a committee and as departments. We'll talk about, I'll leave the last page, number 18, Deloitte's going to speak on anyway, is making sure that we have transparency in all we do and where these funds are benefiting the state. And I just have to give a huge thank you to Tricia Treese here at the Division of Environmental Quality. She's in the room, she's back there, she staffed this committee well, but she's also in her own initiative created a statewide dashboard that many are, and I know that pulls from data from, well, y'all push data to her now. Hopefully that will be operationalized with Deloitte, that it won't require the manual labor, and hopefully that will make it more accurate as well and timely, that we're getting reflection of all the money as it comes in, but also as it goes out. But she's made great progress in creating the dashboard. So I'm going to turn the agenda over to her, unless if y'all have any questions about this presentation at this point. If not, I'm going to turn it over to Tricia and let her present where we are on this dashboard. It's pretty awesome. I'm going to give you, and she may have provided, I think there's a handout. Is there a handout on that, Troy? Yeah. If not, we can provide you one later, but she's going to go through the electronic version of the dashboard so that you can see where we are on building out this dashboard. Yeah, okay. I'm going through my paperwork. Those of you in the audience don't, but there is a paper version of the dashboard that just to give you a reflection of what the pages look like, but she's going to walk you through the operability of it. And we're hopefully going to make this live soon. I believe it's actually online where you can access it. She can provide that link if there's others that want to look at this, understanding that this is still in development. But we know that we've missed some of the current funds that have come to the state already, and we're trying to get that, now that we can see it better, we can capture that better. But and before, as she's getting that pulled up, I have included for you a summary of the Building a Better America Bill.gov update as of November 22nd on the infrastructure law and what's been delivered to Arkansas. It's a document, it's available online. For those of you in the audience, we can also provide you a copy if you need to, but it goes through the specific Arkansas amounts and progress to date in Arkansas that is being captured in their federal bill.gov site, which is not quite as granular as what Tricia has done. So Tricia, have you got it? Still working on it? Well, I was gonna say, if this is gonna take a few minutes, we may wanna. I think the Deloitte has to be pulled up too. Troy, are you pulling Trish's up or how are you? Would you like a few minutes, Trish, and let Deloitte go on, or? I don't think they had, yours was fairly brief anyway, right? And no, I'm talking about, I was just gonna give you a little time, so you. Let's go on and move to Deloitte and we'll come back to you, Tricia. Oh, you got it? Oh. The threat of competition here. Threat of losing your spot, yes. All right, so it's coming up. Here it is.
So, this is something that we've been wanting for a long time. And something I've been working on in the background along with all my other duties, just to have something available to kind of show from a comprehensive viewpoint what's been going on in the state in a visually engaging way. This is, we'll call this a medium draft, gone through several iterations. I'll have to say, thank you to all of the staff at all the IPAC member agencies that have been sending us weekly reports. I know that's quite a lot. I know, I want to say a couple weeks ago, we had 68 sub-award entries from DOT. Yep, and we really appreciated that because then we could show where money was flowing out into Arkansas. And so I'll be able to show you kind of what that looks like on our dashboard. And also, thank you very much to Lucy and Julie, who've been doing most of the collecting of the reports. I've just kind of been in the background playing with Access and Tableau for the most part. So thank you very much to them, and also Jason Straitner of our IT group, who pulled the extract out of our ePortal form. That's really kind of helped us leaps and bounds in terms of our ability to get and operationalize data in a quick way. So this is the first screen. This is not our data. This is from the federal funds information for states webpage about our allocations. And then so you can kind of see all the money from the different federal agencies that we anticipate coming down. And you can also sort by federal agency or the category of funds. So say we're interested in broadband, you can select broadband and it'll filter everything down to that. So applications, this is coming directly from what's being reported to us by the IPAC member agencies. You can kind of see, when most of the applications have been submitted. We've had kind of a steady trickle, a little bit slow at first, and then kind of growing in momentum. The amount of money requested to date. And then we have a section that has all the details that have been provided to us by each of the member agency staff. And if you click on a particular one, it pulls up a lot more details than we show on the table. So there's a lot of interactivity here with what people can look at. Similar to the first page, you can sort. So if you're curious about what he's been doing, you can click on us in the state agency dropdown and it filters everything. You're interested in broadband, see what's been submitted there and so forth. So everything is connected to these filters. Similarly for awards, you can see how many awards we've received to date. Now, I will say that this data is only good as what's being reported to us. We think that there may be some more data that we need to ask for from some of the member agencies based on the sub-awards. So not to pick on, I guess to pick on RDOT. We've got about 17 million-ish that went out the door recently, but we didn't get the award coming to us. So we'll work with our staff contacts and try to make sure that this is as up to date and accurate as we can. Again, you can search, you can click on things for more details. Milestones. So we've recently, when we moved to our ePortal form, which is an online way of submitting started tracking kind of different activity types. One of the things that the secretary was frequently being asked at her infrastructure meetings are, have we had any groundbreakings or ribbon cuttings? Since we've implemented this and kind of had some talk with the staff about, kind of what we're looking for, we've actually been able to show, okay, there've been 4 of them. So I think that's one thing that's kind of improved, and you can see, all of the data, or if you want to kind of see how things have been trickling down or get information, when it was reported, we've got sliders so you can filter. Still take my finger. Okay. Anyway, we have sliders that will filter by date. We also have activity types. So those are those in the lollipop diagram, category, and then by agency. Same thing with priorities. And this is the map that we were very thankful for DOT with. So this shows where the money is flowing into the counties. And so this is all from a couple of their grants. But we can actually see where things are flowing now. So that's really exciting. We would like to see more, so we can kind of go and show what's going on. We have done this by the county level. One of the reasons is some of the IJA awards or funding is maybe a little bit more sensitive than others. So for example, we wouldn't want to list every single, weatherization recipient or something like that. Those people they probably don't want their, stuff on a dashboard, and it would probably be too onerous anyway to do it that way. So that's why we've kind of done it by county. And then you can go down and see, additional details down at the table. And then the last thing that we have on this is just some additional resources, and I need to fix that. But some additional resources that we think are helpful to people in looking at what resources are available to help me understand what funding opportunities are out there. We're hoping that we can work with Deloitte on maybe making some improvements to this dashboard. This is something like I said, taught myself in my spare time. Deloitte has some experts, so there are probably some little bugs and things like this that they can work out, and some design principles that would be helpful for this. Another thing that we're hoping that they'll work with us on is kind of expanding the information that's available through this. Right now, it's really limited to just what we're getting in those weekly reports. But we know that, a lot of the money is coming straight from the federal government, into specific projects rather than being passed through the agencies. And so that kind of information would be good to have here. I know they have another tool that they've worked on too. So we're hoping that working with Deloitte, we can make this better and integrate it with some additional resources or information that'll be helpful. This is currently, there should be a link in your papers. So we haven't posted this link anywhere else other than it's on Tableau Public. So if you have the opportunity to look at it, get in touch with us, let us know if there's anything that you think we could do to improve the dashboard, or if there's other metrics that you want us to be collecting. I can revise our ePortal form to collect those and operationalize that. So anyway, thank you for your time.
I think she deserves a round of applause. As she's mentioned, I know that in several words, we probably need to get our energy office. I know there's been some funding. I don't know if we've actually tapped into the IJA part of it yet for LIHEAP and weatherization. That may be some additional community subawards that might need to be reflected here. I think the NEVI grant is not reflected right now in one of the awards. I know we have some of that funding that's been awarded to the state or approved. So there's some things, but this is definitely going to help us, I think, as we tell the story and look forward. And keep it, we've tried to stay true to the source of the funding being directly related to these enacted legislations. We've tried not to go beyond the scope of IJA. We know that we all receive, many of us receive federal funds already. So we're looking at what is the difference this investment is making in Arkansas, so that people can understand again where their tax dollars are going and how it's benefiting their community and benefiting those parts of our communities that might struggle otherwise to get funding through some accommodations on match and other I'll mention, I think on one of these charts, it does talk about state match, and I believe it was in your sub-grantees that there were state match requirements to get some of this money out. And I know that in ag and some of the water, there's also similar requirements. There's also some set asides of those matches in certain overburdened communities and things like that. So that's something that we probably will look at a little bit more deeper as we can see which communities are getting the benefits that might not otherwise, but look forward to growing this story as we can go forward through your work. So thank you, Tricia. Does anybody have questions for Tricia on this at this point? I know it's early. It's not a, it's a year, but I'm sorry, what? No, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure if I needed to pull you back up. But with that, I know Randy, you might take exit right now, and that way you might not offend Deloitte when you walk out on their presentation, but I'm teasing. At this point, thank you for being here and being available. I know that DOT has been a great partner in this process with us, as well as the game and fish agencies, and we appreciate y'all being part of this and look forward to additional conversations. I'm going to ask our speakers, I think, John, are you taking the lead on this, or y'all tag teaming it? We have a brief update from Deloitte on the statement of work I mentioned, and a proposed strategy lab that they have in the works or in the process of proposing. So I think that's an important resource that we can tap into as we begin the second year of this process. And so, John, if you'll take that and speak to that. I'll mention that the legislature, thanks to, I know we've got legislative member here, thanks to the legislature, we did receive a commitment to utilize restricted revenues that were available through a review committee or through ALC last month, and the contract documents will be reviewed next month in the committees, but so that we'll be able to kick this work off in January, hopefully. So with that, I'll turn that over to John.
Great. Thank you, Secretary Keogh, and committee members. Great to be with you again this afternoon. As Secretary Keogh mentioned, we're going to do a bit of a look ahead to that statement of work that we're calling program management stand up, hopefully kicking in a full swing in January. I think this is going to be another great opportunity for us to engage with all of you, much like in the early phases we met with many of your agencies. I think we'll be working arm in arm here, providing some strategy assistance, some IT assistance. Troy, I think we could go to the second page. I'll kind of cover the quick topics, and Matt and I will decompose those a bit. But some strategy assistance, some IT assistance. I think in general, to borrow a term from my military days, really a force multiplier. We know that you're all busy delivering on your programs and services, and we really hope to help you again in that sort of force multiplier role. As Secretary Keogh mentioned, the state of work has three broad buckets of work. One is helping support and extend and expand the public-facing dashboard. Matthew's going to talk about that in a second. Governance and strategy lab that we're working on, but we'll work with you all on really tailoring. We don't want to make any assumptions or presumptions, so we're going to bring a framework, and we want to work with you over the next several weeks to tailor that lab to make sure that you get out of it really what you want. And stakeholder engagement. Those are really the core elements of the statement of work that we're hoping to launch mid-December to early January. So, Troy, next slide. I jump to the head. So again, core work streams. We have a team ready to go. Matthew's going to speak today. Is going to be one of our leaders in the governance and strategy. Right. So Matthew has spoken with y'all before, but he was kind enough to come today to kind of talk about two of the work streams.
Sure. Thank you, John. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matthew Bartley. I'm with the firm, and it's great to be with you here today. Troy, could we flip to the next page, please? Thank you so much. So we just had an opportunity to hear about some of the great work that has already been going on in this space for the state. And we will be looking to come in and really support Tricia and the team to help build that out and look at some of the integrations that we can bring to help pull more information in and really drive some of that information and visibility for the public. So they can see, they can learn about various IJ efforts underway and the progress of the various projects that are and will continue to take place in the state. In terms of how we get there, there's a bit of detail up on the slides here. I won't go through it line by line, but just at a high level to sort of summarize briefly. The first step is, really about working with Tricia and with you to gather the requirements and make sure that the types of solutions that we're heading towards will be most impactful for you all. Secondly, we'll develop some blueprints out of that, of the key features and functionality to determine exactly how we want that to work. Then we'll pivot and make sure that the data that we need to pull in there is in the right structure and can facilitate that. We'll make sure that there is guidance and developed for your departments, your staff, so that this is usable and accessible and something that really works for you. And then from there, we'll look to push it live and make sure it's something that is of value to the citizens of Arkansas. So that's a brief overview of the first of those three layers to this particular statement of work. Once we are underway, the team will look to certainly, as I say, connect with folks in your respective departments and start pulling things together from there. Troy, if we could jump please to the next page. Thank you. So the second stream of work here is around governance and strategy. And this really boils down to, I think, three sort of main things that are intended to support you all in your strategy for ongoing planning work that really does sit across all of the agencies that you represent. And this is really all intended to help the state get the most out of the projects, as the Secretary referenced earlier, that sit up under this IJA bill. So the first element here is the strategy session. This is really an opportunity to convene key leaders to align on sort of vision, key principles for the statewide program. It's an opportunity to think about and talk about cross-agency opportunities and coordination, to discuss stakeholders. I know John's going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second, and to develop a basis for prioritizing program opportunities as well. So this approach is something the firm has, it does a lot and has a lot of experience and capabilities in. And so we're looking forward to the opportunity to put this session together with you all and deliver something that really works for you. The other two things that are mentioned on this page will both be informed to some extent by the strategy session. So the first one here is a governance plan, and that's really intended to provide some recommendations on how agencies can work together and to coordinate on IJA, all with the goals of efficiency and effectiveness in mind. So part of this will be thinking about how we structure subcommittees so that work can proceed at the agency level, and then decisions can cascade up from there. And then the final piece that we have here is around the priorities and what we're calling priorities and opportunities roadmap. And that's really about pulling together all of the planning work that has been done to this point and integrating that with the outputs of the strategy session and layering in there sort of a forward calendar of the competitive opportunities that are most meaningful and impactful for the agencies reflected here in one place and one clear plan. So that's sort of a quick refresher on the first two elements of this SOW. I'll turn it back to John to walk us through the last couple of slides.
So the third work stream is stakeholder engagement. Thanks, Troy. So with respect to stakeholder engagement, it's pretty much what you would expect. We're going to work with your teams to help identify stakeholder groups. We're going to help identify key messaging themes. We're going to track the messages as well, and any signals we're getting from those channels so that we can adapt and change messages needed. I saw Mitchell Simpson is here today. We're doing a bit of stakeholder engagement initially with Mitchell and his team around EV. So I think we're getting a good sense for some of those stakeholders. working on some tools, some survey tools to get some input, working on maybe some in-person sessions. It's likely going to be a blend when you engage with your stakeholders, kind of meeting them where they are and how they want to be met with. So we'll be working on a plan across this committee to ensure we're kind of coordinated in the outreach to stakeholders, coordinated in reviewing the feedback, and as well as adapting to that feedback. So sort of the key deliverables, if you will be a stakeholder engagement plan, which will identify stakeholder groups, sort of message preferences, channels if we want to communicate with them, and a frequency with which we'll communicate with them. That is largely the effort, and then we'll be working with y'all to help develop those messages on a go-forward basis. Assuming, don't want to presume, but assuming that Matthew mentioned one of the subcommittees, there may likely be a communication subcommittee in time to help provide that governance and structure as we move forward with the stakeholder engagement sort of writ large. So with that, kind of again looking forward toward the last slide that we had was what to expect from us in the next several weeks when we have the final approval. Matthew mentioned the strategy session. We were talking a bit earlier with Secretary Keogh and team. We're likely to try and deliver that in the late January timeframe. And we have some frameworks. We want to tailor them and make sure that they meet your needs. Coming out of that, as Matthew also mentioned, we want to document, the opportunity areas of plans. We'll document all that for you, again, in that kind of force multiplier role. We want to work on, governance plan cross agency, again, writ large, but also with respect to how you're going to engage and do the outreach to your stakeholders. Finally, we'll work with Tricia with the public facing dashboard. We've seen a bit, I think I met Tricia back in the summer when this was kind of a vision, a gleam in her eye, and it's come a good way since then. And we really want to help her expand the deployment of that. So looking forward to doing that. And the final piece around automating is we do want to work with Tricia. I know automation is key to helping all of us be a little bit more efficient. So to the extent that we can automate some of that data collection, ingest it into the dashboard and present it, we'll take some of the onus off y'all and your staff into running Excel spreadsheets. So bit of look ahead to the next few months. We're really excited to get started with the statement work.
No, thank you. I know that I'm looking forward to, I think we all are looking forward to having, additional support, but also some guidance on compliance. So that may be something we want to factor in our strategy session in January, just some of those key Buy America, Davis-Bacon, and Justice 40 respects on how we make sure we bolster that, we build that in on the front end of these projects. And obviously we can use the reporting tool to represent how that compliance is working too. So that may be something we can work on. So hopefully I know that's outside strategy, but I think at the end of the day, our strategic, how do we make sure that we set up training sessions, or if that's that's something we can talk about at the workshop, is exactly where each of the departments are with respect to understanding that and moving forward, going forward. So I know you're going to be supporting E&E already, and some of that work that might be, that might be something that can be replicated or shared across other departments so that you're not having to reinvent the wheel again. You can use the templates or whatever we use for your, consultant guidance, or, if your contractors, what kind of forms they're going to be tracking on. So anyway, with that.
Absolutely, Secretary. And it's sort of the three core tenets we're kind of working through with the lab right now are the priorities and strategy set piece. Stakeholder engagement will factor pretty heavily in that session. But client compliance is also on. Mitchell's kind of working with one of our partners who has some compliance experience. We intend to bring her to that session.
Good.
And spend some time in that session.
I was going to ask if that was possible to do that. That'd be great. I think that'd be great. Thank you. Do other folks have questions or comments at this point of this work? I know it's coming out in our second year to kind of help us. I think this first years we've been kind of infants trying to learn the process, but now we need to truly, operationalize our work. And I think as the money now is starting to be spent, this is the time where these kind of tools will be helpful to us, knowing going forward to do the work. So appreciate y'all being here, and you've been patient with us as we work through this process. So hopefully with the concurrence of the legislative committees, next month, we'll get this kicked off. We'll be working around session, so we'll try to make sure that strategy session is scheduled to where full committee participation can occur and not be disruptive to the legislative process either. And in fact, and hopefully involve some of the legislative members in that process, as well as the governor's office, as we move forward. Of course, I'll caveat all this is that we're meeting, we'll be working through this with the transition teams on how Governor-elect Sarah Sanders will want this program to be implemented. So we'll also want to make sure, and that's part of the timing, making sure that these strategy sessions are conducted, in a compliance and in the interest of what the governor's leadership is on infrastructure investment in Arkansas. So with that, I don't know what the next steps. So I think we talked about the strategy lab late January. We don't have a set date on that. That's something we'll work through. I guess we'll find out. I know initially in the legislative session, usually the committees like to hear presentations from various entities. So we'll try to make sure we don't put it on a date where maybe you've been called to a committee to make that early presentation, but hopefully before the bills start rolling too fast that that we're out there just monitoring committees too much. But also there is an NGA infrastructure coordinator workshop that's going to be in Washington, D.C. Shane, Corey, and I have scheduled to attend that. It's actually being held. I know we lost our DOT representative, but it's also there's a US DOT aspect of that workshop. So I know some of the DOTs across the country have been invited to part of that meeting, but the second part of the meeting is just with infrastructure coordinators or chairman of committees similar to this that will convene. So if you have any ideas or questions that you're facing, that you think you can like to hear what another state's doing in that area, or that you're really running into a roadblock that we need to raise up to the White House representatives, we'll meet with the senior White House folks, but also the senior level federal department representatives will be in the room with us, so we can raise up questions, and they're very open to getting feedback from the states on what's working, what's not working, and where barriers might exist. So I know state match is one that comes up often in that conversation. Also, some of these other requirements, I think there's been some discussion about signage on these projects and how they might be signed, and those are now considered reimbursable, I guess, expenses under these grants. So how that complies. So there's other issues that they bring up, but also questions that we have in terms of how do we do this, effectively at a state level. So I'm happy to bring that up, any issues that you have at that. So, and then also late January, early February, I know that here locally, the American Council of Engineering Companies has requested an infrastructure day, if you will, with them and their membership. This is a lot of our engineering talent in the state and other engineering consultants and construction consultants that are basically going to be really key in implementing many of these programs in our state. They're very keen to understand what each of the departments are doing, but they have asked for about a 3 or 4 hour session that they will come schedule, and they will inviting some of the members of this committee to make presentations about what your program is on infrastructure, how you see, and so that, and then they'll probably sell themselves to help you out. But they're happy to support too, and I think that the industry's kind of has a strong appetite, obviously, but they're also trying to get a handle on, out in meeting with them in their regional meetings and also just one-on-one. I know that they're also trying to understand workforce and when to be, when this money is coming. And I know we all are kind of having the same question, but they're trying to make plans for their staffing and their labor needs for the next year. And they're looking to see what it is that's coming out, so that they know where those opportunities might be to engage that talent that we have in Arkansas. We know we're going to be strapped because these same folks are doing DOT work. We'll also be doing broadband work. We'll be doing water, wastewater infrastructure, and they're all hungry to help. But they're also recognize that their resources may be tapped out at some point. So they're just trying to understand how they can help build their team to meet our needs across the board. So I would encourage you, if invited, feel free, but I don't have the exact date. It's been moved a couple times, reflecting some conflicts on their end and as well as our end. So I know that they've indicated now it'll be late January, early February. Is that right, Troy? Have you heard any updates on that? So you may hear from us on that, but that's really all I have today. But before we adjourn, I would like to kind of round robin real briefly with each of the departments to see if you have any comments or updates that you want to share with us. And I do have, I'll start first with E&E. We're very excited about a number of the programs that Mitchell Simpson's got going, and Administrator Bingle, I'll let you take that one here in a minute. But one area that particularly I've spent a lot of time on, Shane Curry and Administrator Bingle on, is the hydrogen hub grant. And I know even Savannah has participated in a number of those calls with the 3-state regional MOU with the governors of Louisiana, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. The concept paper for the hub was submitted a few days early. Actually, it was due, I believe, November 7th, and I think it went in on the 5th. So we're pleased that that hub concept paper has been submitted. It was quite an exciting opportunity to be part of the development of that hub. A lot of that was developed by work of our staff, but also work of a consultant who had to create a lot of, I guess, what do you call, private conversations with our companies across these 3 states and businesses that are going to invest in hydrogen production or use. And a lot of that was done through non-disclosure agreements. And then those details were put together to form a concept paper that's been submitted now to USDOE. That paper is considered proprietary and confidential at this point because of the nature, the private nature. Even I've not seen the detailed copy of some of the information, but I understand that it's quite a significant project, and we believe HALO will hopefully hear soon whether the funding will be coming our way. We know that a number of concept papers were submitted. But that award we're anticipating a DOE to make that announcement in mid-December. It might be a Christmas gift from what somebody said. So it could be around the 20th of December. We hope earlier because if selected or indicated that it would be a recipient of these funds, then an application will be due in April. And so there's a lot more detailed work to go, because at that point, every project that will be funded has to be identified and fully developed for the purposes of of putting in that application, so that we know how that funding could be distributed across the 3 states. So I'll stop there. But let me go back. Let me go to Chris first, and then we'll come around the table.
Thank you, Secretary Keogh. Not a long update from Game and Fish. First, I'd just like to say again, thank you for drawing us into this group. It's been helpful to come each time and hear the updates, and today was no different. So a lot of good information to take back to Director Booth. So thank you for that. Continue to work with our friends over here at Deloitte to take a look at some of the game fish infrastructure and opportunities for the future. So again, continue to engage in that, and we appreciate that opportunity. Thank you.
And I see you were a sub-grantee award winner from DOT on a few projects. Is that right? So
I think that's right.
So that's good that we can bring some of the funding to help build out some of those parks and trails that y'all have work going on.
No update from my end.
Just from our side of the house, emergency management, we have submitted the cyber grant to the Department of Homeland Security, working with Division of Information Services. It's been a great partnership. We actually, one of my team members was in a national meeting a few weeks ago, and at that time we were one of only like 3 or 4 states that already had a cyber plan in the works. So I think it says a lot about the state of Arkansas, but it's something we've been working on for even before the grant came out. But it was great that we had to jump on it. So we're looking forward to getting that award.
That's great. Is that a competitive grant or is that a formula funded grant? Or
No,
both?
it's, we'll get a little over, I think, 3 million a year. And I also want to mention too, that with this partnership, the Association of Counties and the Arkansas Municipal League, that we've all worked together on this, because about 80% of that grant has to go to the local level. So we've been able to put a plan together that's going to enhance cybersecurity from the bottom on up.
That's great news. Shane, did you have anything to add to my comments?
I think so.
We'll move to Chris then.
All right, thank you. From the Department of Agriculture and Natural Resources standpoint, we have received about 1.7 million for epoxy work in East Arkansas. So we're in the process of requesting the appropriation to use those dollars. So we should be on peer committee in December to receive our appropriation. We also have another small national dam safety grant program, about $46,000 that will be requesting appropriation. We've received our award for that. And then the big one for us is in our state revolving fund program. We received a plus up under Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. So we've just requested about $38 million in IIJ funds under our state revolving fund program. And so we've submitted that request, hope to receive the funds maybe January, February, and then we'll seek appropriation to use those funds. But that's really about it for us right now. Thanks.
I know y'all are focused also on the ARPA. You have some ARPA funds that have been dedicated. I think we lost our legislative member, but Senator English, but I know that that's a big effort for y'all that will start that process of some of the infrastructure investments.
Yes, so we were fortunate to receive we received 280 million in American Rescue Plan funds. 10 million of that went for irrigation projects. 270 million of that we're administering to communities for water and wastewater infrastructure. And so our grant application period just closed on November the 4th. So we're in the process of scoring 800 plus applications, about 1.3 billion in requests that will ultimately make a decision on who gets funded. And one great thing that's come out of this is it's raised awareness for a lot of those projects that we may not normally know about. And so, there's other funding opportunities in the future to work with those communities. If we don't fund them under American Rescue Plan, then hopefully there'll be opportunities under Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, maybe even some other funding opportunities. So be a good thing for the state.
Well, thank you. And maybe we will capture that as part of this committee's work, because that is, I guess the good news too, is I believe the Arkansas ARPA investments can be considered state match for some of the bill work in this case, or in certain cases, if in fact you need to plus up a project or something and can't quite meet that need, or due to the competitive nature of the ARPA request, that maybe that Bill could step in and help build out the rest of that project. I don't know if y'all are looking at that or not.
Well, I know we haven't looked at Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act specifically for the programs that we're going to receive additional funds for, but I know under the American Rescue Plan, for example, that we can use those dollars to core projects. So the 2 irrigation projects, those dollars can serve as state match on those projects.
Oh, that's great. So, yeah. So encourage creativity there, whatever you can do, because I know that many of those cities and counties have big needs, and wherever we can use the money to help deliver more, that's great when we can, especially plus it up on federal funds. So, but also thank you. Please express my appreciation to Secretary Ward and also to you and your team for being so inclusive in the work on this, because I know even members of our team will be part of the selection committee next week. And I think that's a great testament to the interaction between departments to make sure that we're considering not only, the implementation at your level, but hopefully we can also assist you in making sure that these projects do realize the success that you need, but also we need from an environmental standpoint, or others need from commerce or whatever, be it state entities that have infrastructure needs. Hopefully these will all, but thank you for that effort.
thank you for providing staff to help us on the scoring. So Department of Health and Energy Environment will both provide staff to help us score proposals. Those are folks that work in that water and wastewater business
Yeah.
all the time. So that information and their knowledge will be helpful.
Well, I hope we are being helpful, not obstructing, but help. So with that,
You've been helpful.
I believe you want to take the next one.
Sure, just real quick, the Arkansas Waterways Commission provided letters of support for two different ports that applied for the Port Infrastructure Development program this year, and we're really excited for Helena Harbor to receive the $6.4 million to build their water tower and rail spur. So I know that the other port made like 3 cuts, and so they came real close to getting an award too. So I'm hoping that, maybe next year will be their turn. And, we're just really pleased to see all of the funding that's going to the 3 different districts, the Corps of Engineers that we deal with here in Arkansas, and getting some of these maintenance projects that have been desperately needed to be completed are starting to kick off the construction, and those are getting underway. So it's really nice to see that work starting.
That is fantastic news. Thank you for that update. And I know that several of us have done letters of support too, and perhaps weren't successful in the first round, but and similarly, we look forward to the second year, perhaps being winning years for some of those. I know we had a battery manufacturing facility that applied that we offered support for. So hopefully, given that we have those lithium resources nearby, they will take that into account and prioritize that investment as well. I think we have Administrator Bingle still on Zoom. I really can't see. I'm sorry, and I did not mean to leave you last. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I've been listening.
Do you have anything you'd like to mention to the committee?
No, I think you've covered everything pretty well, and the dashboard is going to be great. That's a great overview of all that we're doing.
Okay, thank you. Troy, do we have anybody else join us by Zoom? Do you see anybody? Nothing. All right. Well, I know that we had a number of our members that had conflicts, being that we're coming into the holiday season and a lot going on, but thank you for being here today. Any final comments? If not, I'll consider them adjourned, and we'll be in touch about future sessions. Thank you.
Recording stopped.